because they saw the signs which he was performing on those who were sick. And then Jesus went up on the mountain, and there he sat down with his disciples. Now the Passover, the feast of the Jews, was near. Therefore Jesus, lifting up his eyes and seeing that a large crowd was coming to him, said to Philip, "Where are we to buy bread so that these may eat?" Jesus poses a problem to the people, to his disciples. He says, listen, here's this huge crowd of people that are coming. Where are we going to find bread, buy bread to feed these people? He poses them with a dilemma. Verse 6 says this. It says, he was saying to test him, for he himself knew what he was intending to do. And Philip answered, 200 denarii worth of bread is not sufficient for them, for everyone, even to receive a little. Another translation may say, 8 months' wages won't buy enough bread to buy one mouthful for everyone. One of his other disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, "There is a lad who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what are these for so many people?" And Jesus said to him, "Have the people sit down." Now there was much grass in that place, and the men sat down in number that was about 5,000. And Jesus took the loaves, and having given thanks, he distributed to those who were seated. Likewise also of the fish, as much as they wanted. When they were filled, he said to his disciples, "Gather up the leftover fragments so that nothing is lost." So they gathered them up and filled 12 baskets with fragments from the 5 barley loaves, which were left over by those who had eaten. Therefore, when the people saw the sign which he had performed, they said, "This is truly the prophet who has come into the world." Jesus did an interesting thing in this passage of Scripture. He created a problem. It may have never occurred to some of us that God sometimes creates problems. He throws problems into our life. And it wasn't just simply because he was cruel, like it was a comic prank or cosmic prank that God was performing on his disciples. John was very wise in telling us that it says that he did this so that he would, or to test him, because he already had in mind what he was going to do. God is a God who tests us. Now there's a great difference between testing and temptation. God never tempts us in a place of sin. So then what is testing? Testing is actually showing us whether sin already exists or not. It just simply peels back the layer of our reality and shows us some shortcoming, some area of diminishedness, some area that is not up to par with where it needs to be. It doesn't create that problem, it just simply gives us opportunity to see where we are small. And so that's what God does with Philip in this passage of Scripture. He looks at him and he says, here's all these people that are coming. They want to hear more about what I am preaching about. They want me to lay hands on their sick and heal their sick, which he'd already been doing. And these people were they were so desiring to see and to know and to be with Jesus. And these that were right there next to him, these that were right in the place where he was at and what was going on in his life, these ones that were so near to him, his disciples, Jesus said, I'm going to test you in this. I'm going to show you something in this. I want you to grow in this. And he said, where can we find bread? Where can we buy bread for these people to eat? Now that's a massive question. Right? Like it's the middle, I mean, it's Passover. Right? This is the middle of Mardi Gras for Jews. I mean, it is just a throng of people marching up and down Johnson Street. And the Messiah of the world turns to you and says, hey, where are we going to buy enough bottled water to give everybody that's out here something to racing through that. Like, this is your teacher, right? This is the person that you've said, I'm going to leave my family, we're going to follow this guy, and we're going to learn from him, and we're going to do whatever he says. And so he asks the question, where are we going to buy bread for all these people? And Philip goes, right, like the stomach grabs, and he's like, bread, right, yeah. Jesus, do you know how many people are out there, right? Okay, there's 12 of us, 5,000 of them. And actually, probably there's actually more than that, because the scripture actually says that it was 5,000 men. It doesn't include the women that were there. It doesn't include the children that were there. This is a lot of people. You know, we have a hard time coordinating, like C-Ross buying for 100 people, let alone like 5, 10, 15,000 people. And he looks at it and says, where are we going to buy bread for these people? He's confronted with a problem. And it's a real problem. Now, when we look at it, we go, well, that's just kind of a casual thing, but this is Jesus that's asking you. Hey guys, there's times in our lives when we have major, big problems. Like, they're ugly, they're gnarled, they're nasty, they're just the kind of things that cause us to weep. And then there's other dilemmas, other issues that come up in our life, and they're simply a question. And those have as much and sometimes more value than even the big trials in our lives. And God desires to use those to grow us. The question is, how are we going to see God move through our lives? This is Jesus' invitation to Philip. Jesus has been doing all the preaching. Jesus has been doing all the healing. Jesus has been doing all the work. And in this time, Jesus extends an invitation to one of his disciples to say, why don't you come on into the work that I'm doing and be a part of it? And he extends that invitation to him and says, let me show you, or let me ask you the question, how can God move in your life? This is one of those God-sized problems. 5,000 people need bread. The hero of the story, though, is not Philip. And even though Jesus is a hero because he's the great teacher, he's not the guy that I want us to actually see in this passage of Scripture. See, the person that's in this passage of Scripture that I think is the hero of the story, the one that we ought to be modeling our lives after, isn't even named. He's not even described. Other than one very simple thing. It says that he was a boy who had 5 loaves of barley bread, 2 fish. And it was this nondescript, never shows up anywhere else in Scripture. There's no books written about this guy. There's no universities or churches named after the little boy with 5 loaves and 2 fish. He has nothing else, but God used this guy to perform one of the most amazing miracles that he did on the face of his earthly ministry. Guys, we look at our lives and we go, God uses big people. God uses professional people. God uses pastors, evangelists, and seminary professors, and missionaries, and all those kind of people. Right? God uses disciples, apostles to do those kind of things. And God gave that invitation to them. But that's not who stepped up to the plate. Who stepped up to the plate was a boy. Just a boy. With 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. How was it that God used this boy to move through him to impact lives and to solve a great dilemma? The first thing is this, and this is how it plays to us, that we can see God move through our lives when we live